I met Anne 2 years after my first wife Susan died. We have been married 10 years. I have 2 daughters with Susan, Molly, 14, and Rose, 16. Anne and I have 2 sons, Tom, 5, and Paul, 2. Anne has used to be really involved with helping keep Susan's memory alive and accepted her place in the girls' lives, but after she got pregnant with Tom she started to push her role as mom onto the girls, which caused many fights between Susan's family and me. She stopped celebrating Susan on Mother's Day and Christmas, even refused to attend what would have been Susan's 40th birthday at my in-laws' house. Anne has been a great mother to my girls over the years. She's been very hands-on with everything, like helping them with school/hobbies and having celebrations/holidays planned months in advance. My oldest daughter Rose got pregnant 4 months ago and the father isn't in the picture, so Anne has been doing everything to help and plan for the baby. I thought their relationship was becoming more stronger. She even had Anne plan her gender reveal and baby shower. But 2 weeks ago Susan's mother and sister come to visit. They were having a conversation and mother-in-law brought up how hard it must be on Rose to be alone in this without her mom, especially during her first pregnancy, and it breaks her heart that she had to grow up without a mother. Anne then smashed a plate on the ground, which shocked everyone into silence, and said, "What about me? I've been there every step of the way. Me, not you. Me, she has a mother that takes great care of her." Molly screamed at Anne to not speak to her grandmother like that, and she wasn't their mom, just their dad's wife, so she needs to stay in her lane. A crying Rose said that she wished it was Anne dead instead of her mom, and she's sick of pretending to like her so she can stop trying to play pretend she's their mom. Anne said, "Okay, fair enough, I'll stop playing mom from now on. I'll just focus on the kids I gave birth to." Anne left the house for a few hours. When she came home, she just checked on the boys who were in bed and went to sleep, ignoring me. We had a conversation the next morning. I suggested family counseling, and everyone apologizes for the hurtful things they said to each other. She said there was no need, and she was making breakfast, wake up her kids. When I got the boys ready and woke up the girls, we went down for breakfast. I noticed Anne didn't make any breakfast for Molly and Rose. She then sat down and started talking to me about she was going grocery shopping later. Did I need anything? Then said no when the girls told her what they needed. It's been like this for 2 weeks. She won't do anything for the girls or even speak to them unless she has to. She treats them like roommates. I've tried to speak to her about it multiple times and tried to have a family discussion about what happened, because the girls are extremely sorry, but Anne will simply say she giving them the relationship they asked for. Today was meant to be Rose's gender reveal, but Anne cancelled everything she planned and failed to mention it till Rose asked her 2 days ago, so I couldn't plan a decent party in time. Anne didn't even attend. She went to see her parents, which really hurt Rose. I was so angry at Anne the minute she came home. I lost it at her. I called her vindictive witch and that I'm sick of her acting like a child, that she was 42 years old playing mind games with the teenagers, and if she kept it up we'd be getting a divorce. She just gave me back her wedding ring, packed a bag for her and our sons, then left. I've tried to call her but she won't answer. Both my girls haven't left their room, crying, blaming themselves for what happened. Comment 1. OP wanted his current wife to go to his late wife's 40th birthday get-together? Genuinely asking, is that normal? I would feel extremely awkward if I were current wife attending such an event. Daughter wishing stepmom dead? There's just some things that you can't take back and for which an apology isn't enough. Since Rose is 16 and presumably in school, I'm guessing that the plan was for Anne to watch the baby. Her upcoming vacation a week before the baby's due date is probably her way of communicating that she will not be involved. Comment 2. YTA. Your daughters got what they wanted. If Rose is old enough to get pregnant and keep the baby, she's old enough to be accountable for her words. It sounds like your wife tried, and was shut down. And your late wife's family was absolutely absurd in what they said. They own this mess too. So now your daughters have no mother at all. Anne has her kids, so she's justified in taking care of them. You handle your daughters on your own. Comment 3. Anne doesn't need your daughter's abuse anymore. What they said can't be taken back. You'll get a divorce, and next time, teach your daughters some manners and to be grateful. Being brats won't get them far. Once Rose, who's a child herself, has a newborn and no help from Anne, that's when she'll realize just how badly she screwed up. YTA for not having Anne's back 100%. I, 40M, have a son, 15M, with my late wife Cassie. Cassie died when our son was 5. She was left a large sum of money before her death because her death would have been preventable, but her medical team was negligent. She used the money to clear any medical debts, pay for her funeral, and the rest went into a savings account for our son. I have saved since, but not as significantly as the money already there from Cassie. I remarried when my son was 11. My current wife Andy has a daughter who is now 11F. Before we ever got married, we had discussed finances, the kids, and how our blended family would work. We spoke about savings for our kids. My stepdaughter has hardly any because her father cleared it out during his and Andy's marriage and refused to contribute to it again. So she started a new one. Andy was aware my son had a lot of money in his. But she does not have access to his, and I do not have access to my stepdaughter's. We felt it was better to keep saving individually for our bio kid. And we agreed not to interfere. But everything else is together, so paying medical stuff, household stuff, extracurricular stuff, etc. Everything with that was fine until September. The brief description is my stepdaughter was born with some medical problems. These problems require daily meds and surgery on occasion. In September, my stepdaughter had a surgery that went badly and created more problems. Andy found my stepdaughter a new doctor. This new doctor discovered a further complication which required a new, and costly, medication in the short term and a big surgery to correct. The surgery costs a lot, but we would pay it off eventually. This is when Andy suggested asking my son if we could pay the cost directly from his savings. I told her no. She told me if I explained that it needs to happen and he will still have plenty, it won't be an issue. I told her it would be, and that money is for my son, not for us, not for anyone but him. Andy went and asked my son anyway, and without letting me know. He told her no and she raged at me, which is how I found out. I told her she crossed the line. She told me it's easy for me to say when my son isn't the one living with medical problems. I told her that did not give her the right to ask my son, who is still a child, for money. Things got so heated that my son and I moved out because Andy and I did nothing but fight, and she then went on to say some crazy things, like my son hates her daughter and wants her to die. Andy's parents have interjected now and called me out for refusing to alleviate the stress of medical bills for Andy and my stepdaughter by taking money I did have access to. Andy also said I showed how little I care for my stepdaughter. I told her we were still going to pay it, so I don't know what she's talking about. But she and her parents called me an ass. I'm still furious she went to my son and asked for money after I said no. Comment 1. NTA. This is your son's money. She has no right to use it. And yes, she crossed a line. A big one. And even more for saying your son doesn't care about his stepsister. This money is from his late mother. Andy should go after her daughter's bio dad and call him selfish for not paying. Maybe even take him to court for this, as he should pay child support and so. Would give Andy an ultimatum. A tertiary apologist to you and your son for crossing this line, or you are done. Comment 2. You are NTA. But your wife is. First, you put your deceased wife's money into an account for her son. While you may be able to access it, morally it belongs to your son and shouldn't be available to anyone else. Please talk with a lawyer about how to safeguard this money for your son. Second, your current wife has fixated on this money and went behind your back to try to get your son to agree to parting with money after you already told her no. I hope you have a very clear will that addresses this account for your son. It's clear that if something happened to you, your wife would take this money and use it for her daughter, if she could access it. Are you sure you want to stay in this marriage? My sister named my nephew Skylar. She has always called him Skylar and told everybody she knew he would not be Sky, that Sky is a girl's name and not even a good girl's name. Well, Once my nephew started school, he started calling himself Sky, and all his friends and even his teachers call him Sky. My sister was agitated but expected him to grow out of it. She vented a lot about him going by Sky and how she couldn't understand Sky being such a popular nickname for a boy. My brother pointed out his name is Skylar and Sky is the most common nickname for it, with Kyla being possible but not really any better. My nephew is now 14 and he asked the family to call him Sky as well. We respect what he wants and call him Sky. He told me that he wanted to ask when he was 5 but knew his mom would have a fit. But he no longer cares that she hates Sky. I think it's great he's doing what makes him happy. My sister is now freaking out that everyone calls him Sky except for her. Even her husband, Sky's dad, calls him Sky. She has tried to fight against Sky using Sky. She told him his name is Skylar and he should call himself that because it will be confusing for people. She told him shortening your name isn't a must. Then she told him she forbids him from introducing himself by the nickname. He told her Sky is more his name than Skylar is by now and she needs to deal with it. She ranted and raved about the disrespect and how he should have listened to her. I told my sister she can't control the name her son introduces himself as, especially a name that is a common short version of his full name. I told her she's only going to make him resent her if she continues. She told me to mind my own business and of course she has the right, she's his mother. Comment 1, NTA. The only time she had a choice over this is prior to calling him Skylar. Even then it's a bit dicey as his friends could have always allocated him a nickname at school that sticks. I'm surprised he didn't end up being called Bluey for blue sky or something similar. She needs to let it go. She won't, but she really needs to. She's his mother. Yep, and what she signed up for is to raise a child that is capable enough to make independent decisions. Sometimes that sucks. She should pray that his independent decisions only cause her this level of anxiety. Comment 2. NTA. She got to pick his name when he was born, he gets to choose what he is known by now he is old enough to have a view. It would be pretty disrespectful of you to ignore his wishes. Also, while it's too late now, when you are choosing names for your child, it's sensible to think about common nicknames/short forms and not picking a name if you hate the common way it's shortened, because the chances of the child, or others, using it at least sometimes is so high. Your sister is also wrong about Sky being a girl's name. It's gender neutral. Sky Masterson in Guys and Dolls springs to mind. Skylar is also gender neutral, but I think in English-speaking countries is more associated with girls, women. Comment 3. My son legally changed his name. You know what we call him? What he wants us to. Because we love him and respect him. Your sister needs to learn what that looks like. She's not parenting a baby anymore, where you get to pick their name. I, 17M, don't have a close relationship with my dad. I would go as far as saying he doesn't even really deserve to be called my dad. My bio dad, yes, sure, he is biologically my father. But he was never a dad to me. When I was younger he was always working on spending time with his buddies. He'd go on vacations with friends but not with us. He wasn't even around for my birthdays. My mom got sick when I was 9 and my dad was all emotional about it when he found out. He wasn't around when she was diagnosed, so he was the last to find out. But he didn't change. It was only when she died a year later that he was distraught when she died. He tried to fight over not taking her body and then for 3 years he didn't take care of himself and lost his job and everything. His parents helped him pay bills and groceries while my maternal grandparents took care of me. He wasn't around. He wasn't a good dad. He mourned Mom and pleaded for forgiveness but never took the time to be a better dad. He just regretted not being better to Mom. He slowly got his shit together and 2 years ago he met Helena and they got married a year ago. Helena has 2 kids 5F and 4 meters. They don't have dads in their lives and my dad has stepped up to be a great dad to the 2 of them. He takes them to the park, he buys them stuff, he reads to them, helps with her daughter's reading and stuff. All the kinds of things an actual parent would do. All stuff he never did with me. When I saw him do that stuff with them, I decided that as soon as I was 18 I was out of here and would never look back. I don't care if he changes now, I won't ever be okay with him being a good dad to kids who aren't his before he tries with me. The only reason he started reaching out is because Helena's daughter wants me to be her brother and seeks me out. So I avoid being around. The few times I was around and she asked me to do something I said no. She'd get upset so Dad would try to invite me along, and when it didn't work, he suggested we have boys' nights with Helena's son. Then 2 weeks ago Dad and Helena told her kids to invite me to a sibling movie night, and when the kids were out of earshot I told them they are not my siblings and I am not theirs. A week ago Dad tried to talk to me about how distant I am and how I refuse to interact. He told me I'm being really hard on him. I told him he was never a good dad to me and why would I give him an easy time. I said why would I like seeing him be a dad to them when he never was to me. He tried to defend it. I told him he isn't even their real dad but he was mine. Dad accused me of dumping on him. Then Helena interjected and told me I shouldn't dismiss her kids and my dad's relationship like that and shouldn't be so hard on him over it. I told her none of this concerned her and she needed to stay out of it. They told me I was being a duck and shouldn't hate that Helena's kids have a dad and I should be glad for them and shouldn't be so disrespectful. Comment 1. Ask Helena why her kids' dads walked out on her, why she is so comfortable allowing a man who opted out of parenting his own kid to play house with hers, what she's going to do when he gets bored and treats her like he treated your mom. She wants to get into your business, get into hers. Ask your dad why he's better at raising another man's kids than his own. I would wipe the floor with them, as I did with my own sperm donor. If you can go back to your maternal grandparents. Comment 2. NTA, they aren't your siblings and you don't have to act like they are to make other people happy. Your dad is TA for how he acted when you were a child, but I think he's trying to heal and it's okay that he's trying to be better now, but that doesn't require you to accept new members of his family as new members of your own family and they need to respect your boundaries. Comment 3. NTA. The audacity of your dad and his wife. It's not your responsibility to treat his stepkids well, it's his responsibility to be a good dad to his own kid first. My brother Jason died 3 years ago. His widow Laurie refused to return a necklace he had given her which had belonged to my great-grandmother. The necklace wasn't expensive or really worth anything except sentimental value and we had wanted it to stay in the family. Jason and Laurie didn't have any children that the necklace would be passed down to. Nevertheless, Laurie refused to give it back. Fast forward to a few weeks ago. I get a message on social media from Laurie asking to meet. She comes over to my house and explains that she's had a very hard time since Jason's death and now is in a significant amount of debt, which they were even when he was alive. She then says she would be willing to sell my great-grandmother's necklace to me for $1,000. The necklace, if an appraiser ever had a look, would say it's worth about $150. I told Laurie she was out of her mind to come and attempt to extort money out of me with a piece of my family history, among other things that were not as child-friendly. Eventually she left. My mom is pretty angry I didn't buy back the necklace. She says I should have at least tried to negotiate with Laurie and that standing on principle was stupid. My dad, the necklace came from his side of the family, agrees with me. The thing is, I made peace with not having the necklace. I have something to remember that particular piece of family history, a ring from the same jewelry set, and as shitty as I found it that Laurie wouldn't return it, it felt even more slimy that she held it to ransom all these years later. The thought of her profiting from what I consider a misdeed in the first place doesn't sit right with me. However, my aunts have now heard about it and are on my mom's side. So now I'm wondering if I made a bad decision. Comment 1. ESH. Your brother gave his wife a gift. He died. It's got a lot of sentimental value to her, too. By asking for it back, especially at a difficult time, you emphasized that she is no longer a part of the family. That must hurt. Asking to sell it to you may have cost her a great deal, pride-wise. Take up a collection among your mother's relatives who want it back, and give it to her. I'd say you could all help her out of the goodness of your hearts, but this is one way for you to get the necklace back. Comment 2. Well, your aunts and mom can gather up $1,000 and contact Lori before she sells it somebody else, if it's so important to them. They better hurry, though. Lori seems eager to sell. Maybe they can even bargain her down. But it's not your problem. NTA. Comment 3. NTA. Maybe you could have used a little more grace and tact. I don't know the situation, but you're not an asshole for not wanting to pay for something you gave up on and aren't super invested in. If it's so important to your various aunts and your mom, then it sounds like they could get together some money to buy it back.